there is a set of super skills that are found in about 10% of the population. These people also represent a wildly disproportionate percentage of innovations, watershed events, breakthrough solutions, and whatnot.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Paul Daniels. He's an international keynote speaker, board advisor for 3 companies, an international best-selling author, and the founder of Peripheral Thinkers. Paul, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Paul, great intro. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
I born and raised in Southern California. Lived in 27 homes since I was born, 26 by the age of 30. Seen a lot of things, and I love what I do.
Tell me more about what that is.
I started working full-time to put myself through college. And when I graduated, I moved with the company I was with to open a new office in Phoenix. And I started sort of my career there. Left that company to start my own firm when I was 25. And sold that first company a couple of years later, and I joined corporate America. And I was in corporate America for decades. In fact, I still have my foot in corporate America. I'm a chief revenue officer for a software company. And then I founded a company several years ago that is Peripheral Thinkers.
Yeah, so tell me, go ahead. No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. And that's just really how I've moved into this business. Obviously, as you said in the introduction, I do international keynotes, and I'm really fortunate to be on the board of 3 companies that are doing great, and I love being part of that. And I was asked to contribute to a book, and I never thought I would write a book, and now I'm, an international best-selling author, contributing author to this book, and then the founder of Peripheral Thinkers. So it's been a good ride so far. I still have a few more years left in me.
I think you've got more than a few. That's fantastic. So tell me more about this company you founded, Peripheral Thinkers.
We founded Peripheral Thinkers. I founded Peripheral Thinkers beginning as a request from some previous clients to advise them on how to integrate the functional areas of every company. All those functional areas integrated with the sales and marketing team. Typically, they seem a bit disjointed, but there's interconnectivity between them. And the more engagements that I had with my clients, the more I realized there was a need for a different way of thinking about business, the resources, challenges and solutions, competitors and clients. And that really was the genesis of Peripheral Thinkers in the peripheral thinking methodology.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So it sounds like, kind of what I'm hearing is it's a great, consulting think tank. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah. So it does start as a consulting engagement.
Yeah.
Often clients will find me because of they've seen me do my keynote somewhere, or they're referring to us from some other client.
And, when you're talking about these clients, is there a certain industry or vertical or, different, business size that tends to work with peripheral thinking more than others?
Right. Yeah. So the companies that I serve are less vertical and industry specific, and they have more of a culture. So there are 3 specific things that I look for: their performance, the leadership team, and their aspirations. So historically, for performance, they have been successful. They've seen growth over the last 10 years, and it's been pretty steady growth with some ups and downs, right? But they've historically been successful. The leadership team typically are industry experts. They're industry icons even, and veterans. And then their aspirations they want to do more with their company, and they want more than just iterative progress, but they haven't been able to figure out how. So that's an easy way of saying I touched 31 industries in 26 countries to say, yes, this is exactly the industry. Is difficult for me to say.
Wow.
In so many.
And, when you're talking about working with your clients, you mentioned looking at performance, leadership, and aspirations. What would you say the biggest challenge they have before they start working with peripheral thinking is? Is it just kind of hitting a roadblock and needing some guidance?
Yeah. The challenge that they've faced is a couple-fold. One, again, they've experienced this level of success, and something hits, something disruptive. Yes, the pandemic is a nice example, but it doesn't have to be. And I've been doing this for a long time, so it hasn't always been about COVID. But something's hit, and they double down on their processes and procedures, their approach, but it's not returning the same results. It's certainly not returning the results in proportion to the effort that they're putting in. Secondly, there are new players that have come into the market that have started to disrupt the way the market sees things, or at least have created a shiny object that's capturing too much attention. And they also are looking at what I consider to be the biggest detriment to any organization that has achieved that kind of success. And we solved that problem. The biggest problem is conventional wisdom and industry best practices. That is the biggest challenge for successful companies.
And why is that?
Conventional wisdom and industry best practices are often defined by that industry's leaders and subject matter experts. And while their advice and guidance is well-intentioned, without a broad set of experiences, it can also be from narrow perspectives. Breaking out of that conventional wisdom and industry best practices to see that there are other ways of doing things that have already been proven can feel kind of risky. It's been this way for a long time, and that's why they've successfully or historically been successful by iterating, because the whole market is iterating. To be truly successful and to be disruption proof, they need to innovate, not iterate. Innovation comes from outside industries. If you look at industries historically, innovation globally has often come from outside in, but with a different perspective that see an opportunity to apply what they already use and do and know to a new market.
That's really interesting. And I'm curious, off of that, I really like your point about innovation versus iteration. I think that's really important. And that leads me to my next question, talking about, you're quite brilliant, talking about, these bigger concepts. Do you think that it's your expertise? And, I'm going to, build you up for a minute. Do you think it's your expertise that's one of the reasons that Peripheral Thinkers has been successful, is able to stand out, is able to challenge, breaking the industry's best practices?
Absolutely. It's me and only me. No, I'm teasing. No, it's not. Here's the secret. So for those people that are listening, you're going to get the inside scoop or watching. There is a set of super skills that are found in about 10% of the population. These people also represent a wildly disproportionate percentage of innovations, watershed events, breakthrough solutions, and whatnot. People like Edison, Henry Ford, JFK, Richard Branson, Aaron Brockovich, Octavia Spencer, and they all took their profession to a new level, in some cases even created new industries. They're all dyslexic. We have cracked the code. Dyslexics are born with a different way of seeing the world. Their brain is actually wired different. But because we've broken the code, we know the skills that they have innately within them. And that's how Peripheral Thinkers came to be. Found out that I was dyslexic at age 40. We can go into that story another time, but up to that point was thinking, yeah, I'm slow, I'm dumb, stupid, whatever. But I'd already generated $1.3 billion in revenue at age 30. And now with my business and so on, that we've got $2.5 billion again with clients in all those places. But by taking it and saying, if you could see the world the way a dyslexic innovator sees it, you wouldn't be questioning if there are answers to your questions or there are new paths to follow. You would see all of them, and then you could decide what you're going to do, how you will innovate instead of iterate. And it's those skills that have proven, $2.5 billion worth of success.
Wow. That's really interesting. And I think, stereotypically, there has been a stigma behind dyslexia. And I think it's really powerful that you're able to say, to be open about it and say, it was later in life that I was, finally diagnosed with this. And, everyone has their own struggles. And, it sounds like you were able to turn that, and people like Edison, people, profound thinkers are able to use that skill, rewire, not rewire their brain, but take the way that their brain works and analyze the world in a way that benefits them and that doesn't see them as any different.
Yeah, 100%. The World Economic Forum released their future jobs report. They do this every few years. And the skills that are in the highest demands across all industries are cognitive skills. And those top cognitive skills, 80% of those are found innately within dyslexics. But dyslexics only make up 10 to 15% of the population. So we can't create enough dyslexics, to fill the need.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of organizations that are working to help improve the economic or the educational system. I get that. I'm doing the opposite. I'm saying I've been using these, and I've been teaching my clients at first without specifically telling them, here are the skills that you need to use. Now I have the language and the skills, and we can break those skills down with ways to learn them. And it's not like getting a master's degree or anything like that. Some of the exercises are 4 to 10 minutes. And you go, oh my gosh, I never knew. That gives me an idea. If that's true, then could we use this over here to apply to this issue or to reach this goal? And that's the greatest result for me, is when the light bulb goes on. So yes, some people consider dyslexia a disability or a disease. It's not. It's just a different way of thinking and learning. So I help people that are neurotypical leaders think differently. And it doesn't mess up the reading. Letters aren't reversed. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. If I could, that would be kind of weird, I guess.
That's really, I think that's an important note. And it sounds like you're able to use, your expertise in peripheral thinkers and helping you, like you said, neurotypical people, explore their different parts of their brain that may be blocked off just by, like you said, industry standards or, trying to stay within the box. And, this is what's always worked. I don't want to step outside the box.
Yeah. Thinking differently can feel very risky. It can. But there are several examples, and I share with our clients, here's an example of a hospital, whatever, and in 60 days, just because of one interaction, they went from being sort of medium, kind of middle of the road, to having the new approach for patient engagement, which we now see all over the world. But in 2010, it wasn't there. So I'm not going to share all of the, the ins and outs of that, but it was because of a 4 or 5 minute exercise that I did with a group of people. And then the leader left on holiday, called from vacation, and shared some thoughts. I said, yep, that's exactly it. And now that person is the chief patient experience officer for a 20 hospital healthcare system instead of just one. And we see this technology and this approach used worldwide. In 12 years, the adoption is just through, and the technology and the process was already there. It was just being used in a different place, in a different way. So there was we didn't have to split atoms differently.
Yeah.
We didn't have to, come up with the newest algorithms. It was, oh, that's how that works. That could work here.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, no, totally. I was just thinking through it. I'm like, that's, a fascinating concept that you're able to challenge people to use the skills that they already have, use their own expertise and their own experiences to bring out new ideas. I think that's, a really powerful and impactful thing that you're able to do with these exercises through peripheral thinking. So I'm curious, you've been in the industry, you're a board advisor, you're a chief revenue officer. Are there a lot of common misconceptions that you hear in the industry often? And I think we may have touched on one, but I want to push a little bit farther. And I think, one that you said was just going by industry standards, but I want to push a little bit further and see if there's any other misconceptions that you tend to hear or see.
So I shared some with you. One is that dyslexia has nothing to offer the industry or any industry. It's a disability that we need to accommodate for. That's a misconception. The other, as you'd mentioned, is that in order to be successful in my industry, I need to dive deep into that industry and focus only on that, which for an industry expert makes sense. The misconception of innovation and growth and innovation being these big things, and innovation can be a 1-degree change that over time generates a 90-degree difference, right? So the misconceptions are, I think, well, now I'm an industry expert, so therefore what you're going to teach me is iterative, or what we're going to discuss is for iteration. And thinking outside the box is fun. Everyone has ideas, but that's just an idea. I mean, you have to put it in practice. True. The misconception is that, peripheral thinking is about thinking, not doing. Not true. Peripheral thinking is about both. It begins with thinking and a different way of thinking. And so as I go across these industries, what I find most fascinating is when I bring them together in peer groups, which is another kind of layer of the offerings that we have, and they're in non-competitive peer groups, and how they begin to translate each other's business processes and what's working, what's not working, why, into they translate it for each other, and then they start to embrace it for themselves. One of my favorite stories, and I'll be very quick, is occasionally I'll take a small peer group and we will go to a donut shop in the morning at 4:30 in the morning, and we work in the donut shop. We work not behind the counter, we work in the back. So I've got some donut shops that I know, and then we do that for 2 hours. We get out, grab a dozen donuts and some coffee. We sit on the curb and I say, "What did you learn?" And they say, "Well, I don't like getting up early. We didn't get to have coffee before," right? So, okay, you learned a lot of those stuff. Now, what else did you learn? Is there anything in there that you can apply to your business, like today? Well, they'll come up with a few. We might be able to put our people in a different, order. I might, look at our processes, but then someone else will jump in and say, "Jim, you run a home building industry, the company. Did you see how they had already pre-designed or pre-laid out the ingredients? Do you do that on your work sites? Do you have a logistics process that matches that?" Well, kind of. Well, what more could you do based on what you saw? And then he'll chime in, and then he'll say, "But Jane, you're the president of a bank. Did you notice how this and this and this?" So they learn from each other, then they start to translate what they're learning to the other person. And all because we went to a donut shop at 4:30.
That's great. I think that's, there's a lot to be learned from, I think, that example. And I think it's really fascinating that you're able to allow people to have these shared experiences, but grow in their own way. And like you said, translate and help each other continue to grow their own businesses.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get to eat most of the donuts because they're doing the talking.
That's always a good benefit.
Right.
Well, Paul, as we start to wrap up this conversation, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, either about the industry, about peripheral thinkers, about, dyslexia and neurodivergence, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
So if your company is historically successful, or you're in a slump, or what you've been doing hasn't worked before, my free gift to you is look in your periphery, see what other people are doing outside your industry, and take that as valuable. You may not use it today, but you may use it tomorrow. Or you may never use it, but it will inform other things. The more you expand your awareness while you're in the periphery, even everyday experiences, the greater number and variety of resources that you have available to you to inform your decisions, to set new directions, to overcome obstacles, to innovate. So know this, that I can tell you confidently that there are more answers than questions, there are more choices than challenges, more paths than problems, and more opportunities than obstacles when you know where and how to look. And I'm happy to share with you that. Let me know. I've got a newsletter. You can sign up for the newsletter, get a bunch of free information and advice on that, and contact me, and we'll talk about that later.
Where can people go to learn more and follow your journey?
Sure. So best way to follow my journey is just look at the FBI records, because I can. You can find me on LinkedIn at Paul Daniels Jr. Paul Daniels Jr. I'm out of the Dallas, Texas area. You should be able to find me there. And then on my website, which is pauldanielsjr.com. And there's information about speaking. If you'd like me to speak at your event, there's information about this group and what we do in Peripheral Thinkers. And you can contact me if you want to be part of get the newsletter. Mention Business Ninjas and PTN, Peripheral Thinkers newsletter, in the comments, and I'll add you to the list of people that receive that free monthly newsletter. Okay. And if you want to book me for something, there's a hold the date page on the site for speaking.
That's fantastic. Well, Paul, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you breaking down, all things peripheral thinkers, expanding, someone's, sense of awareness, working on shared experiences, talking about, growing communities between dyslexia. And, I think it's been a fantastic conversation, and I appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
My pleasure. Love this program, and I appreciate you including me.
Absolutely.